Hello and welcome to the Video Advertising for Holiday 2019 webinar, Secrets for Reaching Your Audience and Driving Sales, a guide for emerging D2C and challenger brands. I'm Brian Tane. I'm the founder and CEO of Tane. We're a creative video agency based in New York, and we specialize in video marketing and advertising campaigns for emerging brands. I'm joined here today by Garrett Danz, our Director of Strategy. What's up, Garrett? How are you?
Hey, Brian. I'm good. How are you?
I am great. So we're going to jump right in here. Just going to kind of walk through the table of contents. So we kind of broke this into three parts. We're going to give you a little bit of context, go back, just talk about general why video matters, get right into holiday, talk about some specifics of what you can do around holiday 2019. We've got some examples, and then we're going to end with ways you could actually get started today or this week or next week. Time's running out, but it's not too late to start, and we want to show you some ways you can get started. First, just talk about why video matters. Most marketers know video is a very important tool in the toolkit. So we just want to kind of pull some key general stats just to kind of set the table, give some context before we get into some specifics. So 85% of people are more likely to buy a product after watching a video about it. Nearly 6 in 10 U.S. internet users have been pushed to purchase after encountering a D2C brand via social channels. This is really interesting. We're going to get into this a little later because it's not just social channels. There is a difference between paid advertising and organic on social. So we'll get into that a little later too. And finally, a stat from Cisco, video has become the everything medium, and they're predicting that internet streaming and downloads will grow to 82% of all consumer internet traffic by 2022. So obviously the trend is moving in the direction of video content. And as marketers, we all want to sort of, stay up to date with it and see what we can do to really help drive our brands. So I'm going to kick this over to Garrett. We just want to kind of give a little timeline of when video marketing and advertising sort of comes into play for emerging brands, startup brands. So Garrett, you want to just kind of take us through where you see video marketing advertising coming into the mix?
Yeah, definitely. So going to the very start, any brand really starts with the idea and concept. And hopefully you have a good enough idea that you're then able to secure some funding, which is really where things start to come together and moves you towards brand ID development. So this is really where, name, logo, you really define your mission and your purpose and the foundation of what makes your brand unique in the space. So from there, product development infrastructure, that's where you align the previous steps and kind of put together what it is that you're doing and really start to build out the how of what you're doing. Moving on from there is social media and press. And this is often when you kind of introduce your brand to the world. And it's really a vital step to starting to establish that culture and identity around your brand, which is ultimately what really resonates the most with your audience. And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of brands active in this space, but there's often a tendency for emerging brands to sort of stay in this stage longer than is effective and hope that organic impressions will really provide the catalyst for growth that they want to see. To your point about driving deeper in social engagement, and we'll elaborate more on this later in the webinar, but you even see with Instagram in particular that there's a 17% increase in new customer acquisition over paid versus organic. So that's really where video marketing and advertising comes into play and allows you to really keep that momentum for your brand moving forward in a measurable and scalable way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Garrett, we're seeing a lot of brands kind of at that social media stage. They have their channels built and they're kind of dabbling with video, but not kind of going that next level where it's really driving sales beyond, just starting to build the base. So you can do both those things, building your brand equity, but also driving sales, but you have to take that next step.
Definitely. There's a lot of folks using these channels, but there's a lot more power to really be harnessed when it comes to marketing and advertising on social.
Now we kind of want to get into kind of the holiday trends. So we're going to go back to 2018, just kind of look at, some stats from 2018 before we look forward. So in general, spending was up a little, 5.4% last year to just under $1 trillion in sales. What's really interesting is traditional retail brick and mortar is still the majority of sales. So while the sales rose only 4%, it still represents just under $875 billion in holiday sales as retail brick and mortar, while e-commerce represents just under 124 billion. The big difference here and the big stat here, though, is the trend of e-commerce growing 16.7%, way quicker, outpacing retail brick and mortar, but still, brick and mortar still is where people are buying. So while it feels like everything's going e-commerce, the reality is a lot of people are just still buying in the traditional way. Another stat, so that was from eMarketer. Another stat from eMarketer, for their predictions for 2019, they're looking at a spending growth of 3.7%. So that's going to get spending over $1 trillion for this holiday season. And out of that, online sales growth is expected to increase another 10 to 12%. And that's on top of the 16.7% from last year. So again, the trend is definitely seeing online sales grow. It's just far behind brick and mortar as of now. So moving into key holiday dates, we want to kind of show this chart, just kind of give a look at last year so you can kind of get a sense of the spikes at Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and talk about some other opportunities for creating content that maybe not everyone's thinking about. One thing to say before we get into that is this stat from Shopify, really interesting that so ad spend does increase, cost per click increases dramatically, 140% during this time of year, but the average order value does not. So if you're spending money on advertising around this time, you're spending a whole lot more money and you're not getting the orders, you're not getting the value for that investment. So that's why we wanted to put these alternative dates, list this out, and then a little later in this presentation, we're going to break out the time frames when you might want to think about aligning the dates with the different types of content in the funnel. So a couple dates here. So we got Black Friday this year on November 29th, followed by Small Business Saturday on the 30th. If you're a brand who is associated with small businesses, maybe you consider yourself a small business, great opportunity to get down, get outside, go into stores, celebrate small businesses, produce content around that, and get that out to your audience. Cyber Monday is on the 2nd. That's the biggest shopping day of the year. You see the spike here on the chart. If you're not one of the major marketers or retailers, it's very hard to compete at this time of year. So you really might want to consider not putting your ad spend there and using it at different times leading up to Cyber Monday or beyond when we get into Giving Tuesday and beyond there. So again, if you're an emerging brand or a small brand, you don't have a ton of ad budget, you might want to stay away from Cyber Monday because it's super competitive, and that's where like the A-list retailers and competition is out. And it's also probably cost prohibitive to advertise around that time. Giving Tuesday, so this is a holiday sort of in reaction to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. If you're a brand that genuinely has a brand purpose around charitable giving or good causes, this is a great opportunity to build some content around Giving Tuesday, get it out there, maybe start building your email list, using those emails you might be gathering around the content you're building around Giving Tuesday for a little later in the month as you get down to like crunch time. But yeah, it's if you are, again, a brand who that fits with your brand purpose and it's not a stretch, you certainly don't want to be exploiting Giving Tuesday, but if it does align with your brand purpose, it's a great opportunity to get creative and do some content around that date. Green Monday, that is not as in sustainability, that's not a sustainable green, that's actually as in money. So this was started by eBay back in 2007. And as you can see in 2018, you see a spike here on the chart around December 12th. And this is where there's tons of sales. Traditionally, bottom of the funnel type of advertising is going on, driving people to websites with deals. It's a great opportunity if you're not able to advertise on Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Maybe Green Monday might be a better opportunity to reach your audience, offer sales, and drive them to purchase at that time. Hanukkah comes late this year on the 22nd. Then you have Christmas on the 25th. You can see here on the chart that things really start dying down last day of shipping. I think that could be anywhere from the 20th, 21st. And then it sort of really bottoms out around Christmas. And then kind of there's another blip going into New Year's Eve. If you're a health and wellness brand, again, you might not be doing a whole lot of bottom of the funnel advertising around this time of month in December, and instead gathering emails and contacts so that you can really be retargeting during January, which is really your time for sales. So just a look at the various dates. It's ways where you can get creative with your strategy. You don't have to just go blindly into Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's not for everybody. And there are other ways to get your marketing advertising campaigns going.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is really where creative strategy comes into play, and knowing these key dates and insights around them allows you to really stay true to your brand and create a plan that's sustainable and scalable as you move past this holiday space as well.
Yep, I agree. So moving on, we created a specific holiday funnel to kind of like bring this to life even more. So on the top of the funnel in September and October, if you start in September, that's great. It's not too late now in October to start. This is your top of the funnel content, awareness. You want to pique interest, attract fans. Yotpo has a really interesting statistic here that just came out. A little over 63% of consumers, so this was specifically for fashion brands, shop directly from a fashion brand online because they, quote, like the brand. It's a perfect example of the value of brand marketing. So having creating a mood, creating a brand that connects with people on an emotional level, super important, and the statistics bear that too. So moving over here, we have another stat from BBH London. Creative can help influence customer behavior at each stage. And this is especially important for small brands because after market and brand size, where it's very hard to compete on market share if you're a small brand. So after market and brand size, the quality of creative execution is the second most important driver of advertising profitability, on average multiplying profitability by a factor of 12x. Super interesting. It shows you if you're small, you can really utilize creative to really build your brand identity, and it actually will pay off. Moving into the middle of the funnel, sort of we're in the October, November timeframe here. This is the consideration level. This is where you want to be showing product detail and product benefits. You want to put the product in people's hands, on their feet. You want people to see them. You want to list, features. If you hit them on the top of the funnel and they're kind of aware of your brand now and you're retargeting them at this stage, this is where you really want to very quickly show them this is what this product's all about and this is what it looks like. As you move down sort of the week of Black Friday into the last day of shipping, this is bottom of the funnel. This is sort of go time for purchasing. You don't want to be shy here. This is where people are making decisions. You have your offers here. You have your building that sense of urgency, deal structures, product bundling and discounts. So that's where you're on the bottom of the funnel. Two other things I want to talk about, super important, is mobile. And we pulled two stats, one from MicMac and another from eMarketer. But MicMac, it's an e-commerce platform. And from their research, they're saying that in 2019, their traffic to date, 95% of that has been on mobile. That's pretty astounding. While eMarketer is also saying that mobile commerce is expected to jump over 32% this year and will account for 44% of holiday e-commerce spending. So to see the trends, e-commerce trend is growing, mobile is growing. It's really instructive for marketers and creatives. Build your creative with mobile in mind, with e-commerce in mind, make it easy for people to purchase, get those points, especially in the sort of consideration mid-funnel stage, get those points out front, out center very quickly in your videos, maybe within the first second and a half, 3 seconds, no more than 5 seconds. You want to be, showing the audience, your audience, what your product is so that they move down that funnel to the bottom and you hit them a little later in the month and they're really ready to purchase. The next slide here, also super interesting. This comes from Shopify, and this is some research that they've done on new customer acquisition and the most effective new customer channels. Super interesting to see here how Facebook paid advertising and Instagram paid, obviously owned by the same company, are the 1 and 2. So this is what Garrett was saying earlier, how if you're a brand and you're using Instagram organic, you can see how you sort of are plateauing or maxing out at 41%, being an effective channel, more than 17% lower than using paid Instagram ads. That was sort of news to us too, and it's interesting to see that, again, if you're going in with just an organic strategy, just where you're limited. It's not the end of the world. You can do it if you want, but if you're really serious about converting sales around the holiday season, paid really needs to be a component that's part of your marketing plan. So moving on, we've sort of talked about the funnel. We've talked about acquisition channels. I'll kick this over to Garrett. We just want to talk about the different types of content that we're seeing out there. A lot of this stuff, the first couple sources here we have are from YouTube, but a lot of the stuff we'll get into, Garrett will show you, and we put links here on the page, are from Facebook's ad library, which is a great resource if you're not familiar with that. You can see all the ads that people are putting on Facebook in real time. It's the beginning of October now, so you could actually monitor brands that you're following, seeing what kind of advertising they're putting up, seeing if they are using this sort of top funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel approach in real time through October, through November. Super interesting, great resource. So that's the Facebook ads library. So I just want to kick it over to Garrett now. He's going to walk through some of these samples and just how this applies, the creative and this kind of content applies in terms of the customer acquisition funnel.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll drop links below then for ad library as well as any of these references that we have included here for examples. But now that we've talked more about how funnels and channels kind of work as a whole, we can look a little bit more at what the content might look like in each stage. So building on what you said, Brian, this is really about brand awareness. So top of funnel content in terms of the holiday season is usually going to roll out around September or October. And this is going to be more along the lines of commercial spots, brand videos, origin story videos. This could be a beauty piece, a doc piece, but it's really about who you are and why you're that. It's kind of the first impression and really the foundation that builds through the remaining stages of the funnel. All right, so from top funnel, then you move into mid funnel. Holiday-wise, this is going to be around the October to November timeframe. And now that you've made that first impression with the top funnel content, people are really wanting to know what you do, what your product does, what your service does. They want to be able to imagine it really incorporated into their lives. And the closer that you can get them to that, the more easy it is to convert them. So this works building off of the first impression made through top funnel and starts to answer some of the questions that have came up now that there is awareness around your brand. So some of the examples on the right here, you'll see from Glossier and Buffy and Truman's, Magic Spoon, all these really talking about what their product does, what problem does this solve, what need does this fill in their customer's life. And that's really the right time to do this. So now that you've built that first awareness through the first stage of the funnel, now you can answer these questions and start to build a familiarity. And from mid-funnel, then obviously going to bottom of funnel. So this is where you really crank it into overdrive. And for the holidays, this is going to be around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and continue on through the last shipping day, as we mentioned earlier. This is all about sales. This is where you really want to convert the fans that you've made through the first two stages of the funnels into customers. And you pretty much want to be on the nose about it. So if you see in these examples here, they're instilling a timeliness, they're instilling a pretty pointed call to action. You're seeing with Nanit here, 1 day left to save. You're seeing swipe to shop now on Away, and you're seeing some deals as well as some time windows under BarkBox as well. So really knowing that it's important to do this now and identifying a value and a direct line for your viewer to get to that purchase button. And I think it's important to note as well how these different stages of the funnel really do benefit and strengthen one another. Because if you're all bottom funnel and you're just looking to convert, you're really not building a community or a culture around your brand, which is what's going to resonate with the audience most. But if you're all top of funnel and it's all beauty vids and it's all just about awareness, then customers don't really know how to get from being a fan of you to how to engage as a customer.
Yeah, that's really great, Garrett. Totally agree. Super interesting. And again, if you want to see where these ads are, Facebook Ad Library is a great resource. We linked it below here. YouTube, obviously on Instagram and other channels too, you'll find a lot of advertising, but great examples of emerging brands, challenger brands, all the way from upstarts through really successful brands like Away and Allbirds, kind of seeing what everyone's doing here in real time around holiday season. Super interesting stuff. So we're going to close this out. if you're a brand and it's not too late, you want to get started on holiday, we've kind of given you some ideas of when you might want to get involved and what kind of content you might want to be producing. But then it becomes like, how do you do it? So if it's something you want to get started on, you probably want to do it really pretty soon, getting into almost mid-October here. But the process would look something like this. So you want to start with strategy. We've already spoken about it a little bit. So you have brand marketing strategy and performance marketing. That's your data and analytics. You want to find that balance between creative and performance, top funnel and bottom of the funnel, if you want to say it that way, and that sweet spot's in the middle. So you want to be definitely thinking strategically when you're putting different pieces of content out there and executing on that. You don't want to flip it. I mean, you'll be all off on when you're driving people and how you're building your brand. Storytelling, super important component. You can optimize it per platform. I mentioned there are techniques where you might, on certain platforms, you might need to connect with someone in less than 2 seconds. And then there are longer form pieces of content too. Either way, storytelling is crucial. As humans, that's how we understand things. There are tried and true techniques. There are modern techniques. It's something that after you have your strategy, you want to start exploring, how do you tell your story? We move into creative. Again, same idea. We want to bring that brand voice that you've developed. We touched on this way earlier. Garrett said when you're doing your brand identity, you want to pull that through now into creative. You want to start using emotion and engagement. This is what we were kind of referring to on top of the funnel. But using the medium of video, building emotion, engaging with people on that level, and then ultimately, again, pulling it in where we're kind of have this art and commerce aspect. Same thing we've been talking about. So that's brand marketing versus performance. It's art and commerce. We're always sort of walking this line and balancing those two things. Moving into production, you can do everything from utilizing user-generated content. So whether that's reposting people who are tagging your product, repurposing that, recutting it with their permission, but using user-generated content all the way to OTT television advertising. It can really run the gamut. You might not have time to be producing commercial spots necessarily right now, but production should really be looked at in this day and age as, a sliding scale. It could be anything from someone shooting something on their phone all the way up to a broadcast spot. You're going to need quick turn, obviously, and it's doable. But again, it's getting pretty late in the season, but you're going to want to definitely have someone who can work pretty quickly. And finally, in post-production, any kind of production you're doing or any content you're doing now, you definitely want to be doing multiple versions, A/B testing, maybe even more than 2, 3 spots, 4. You're trying to find what's testing. Really interesting, if you go to the Facebook ad library, you can see multiple spots for brands. So any given spot, you click on it, you can see the 3 variations they're using. What they're doing there, they're testing, they're getting the analytics, they're seeing what's working or not, they're optimizing it, and they're going back out with the ad that's really performing. There's no reason that you shouldn't be doing that in this day and age. And that just leads us to optimization. So again, this is the performance marketing side of things. You're distributing it, you're measuring it, you're analyzing it, you're making changes, and then you're turning around and you're putting it back out there. Especially if you're small, if a small brand and you have a limited ad budget, you really want to be making the most of it. So you have to have a good marketing strategy, data marketing, digital marketing strategy in place, the right software for tracking. There are software to track your videos as well. And you want to be putting this all together because as a small brand, you might have money to spend, but you definitely don't have any money to waste on your marketing and advertising. So that's generally how you guys can jump in. That's going to kind of close us here. For more information, our company is Tane. We're a creative video agency. You can find us at wearetane.com. We have our contact here. We've linked everything below right here on this page. So all our resources, you can check those out. We hope that helps. Garrett, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned, everything's down below, and you'll also find a form below for future content as well. So if you like this webinar, there'll be more stuff coming in the future, and feel free to sign up. And we're not spammers, but we will definitely include you, keep you in the loop as more things like this come out.
All right, awesome. Garrett, thanks so much. Thanks everyone for listening. We really appreciate it. Please sign up. We'd love to get some more content to you and connect with you. So thanks again, and have a great holiday season.